Hi Sana.
Hi.
This is our first show of Bolo-Bhi.
And you're very excited.
I'm really excited. Let's tell our viewers a little bit about Bolo-Bhi. Why don't you go ahead and tell them why Bolo-Bhi was set up, what's the mission, and what are our aims for Bolo-Bhi for the future.
Bolo-Bhi is an organization that focuses on advocacy, policy and research. And the reason why it was founded is each one of us have been very passionate about various causes and we've been working on this for years. Some of us have been doing this as careers as well. And one of the most important part about advocacy is it's rightfully a lot of organizations are doing advocacy, but we need more and more organizations to also support research and to also build the gap between rights advocates and policymakers, because we don't see that much. So in the future as well, Bolo-Bhi will be working in various areas which will be completely different one from the other. It can be internet censorship to unemployment or a need for education, but wherever women's empowerment and gender-based violence. So yeah, various causes.
And there are a lot of young women involved in this initiative, and that's great to see. And each one of them has been putting in a lot of time, personal time into this initiative, haven't they?
Yes, all of them. We're very happy to have a complete team of young women, and men as well. Two men and 6 women.
Not token. They're both very active.
Yeah, and they're both very active in doing this. But yeah, mostly also because we pick up on a lot of women-oriented issues, but other issues as well. It's very important.
Okay. Now, shall we talk a little bit about the first campaign that you've run under the Bolo-Bhi banner? It was about internet filtering and blocking. So can you define a little bit about the process, what are the things that you did, and what were the results and the impacts?
On the 22nd of February, the ICT R&D fund, which comes under the Ministry of IT, sent out a proposal and was published in the national newspaper saying that they're looking for looking to build a national URL filtering and blocking system. And ironically, they had called upon researchers and reputable international organizations and students and universities and academics to also bid for it. And that was very alarming, given the country's history on censorship. It's not only related to internet censorship, but mostly media, because that's the first place. Absolutely. Or any public spheres. So our first reaction, even though we've been very active in doing this and we've done this in the past, but as Bolo-Bhi, we thought that this time we'll try and be very strategic about it and tactfully handle the situation. Because what often happens is, and what happened during the Facebook ban as well, was that when we said that don't ban it, so bahut aaram se the situation was turned into either you're with the Prophet or you're with Facebook. Yeah. Similarly, in this as well, they said that this is about objectionable content, this is about pornography. So you have
which it isn't. It's about freedom of expression. It's about being able to access research materials. Yes. It's being able to communicate without any blockage from anybody in power.
Yeah,
now, I don't think that the purpose was that this government is wrong or so and so is wrong.
Exactly, that's
the thing is that anything that is built up, I believe, then must have long-term impact, right?
Yeah.
So, so what did you do exactly?
So we took note from the campaign that Asha also led very successfully about PICO, that advocacy videos highlighting each sector and how it could impact that. So initially what we did was, rather than jumping on the defensive, we issued a press release saying that, okay, you want to put in the system, please tell us what triggered this, what is the content that you want to block because there are no laws, and have you taken any stakeholders on board, and we think that this is not right, this is going to hurt very departments that you want to involve in it. We received no responses.
Okay.
Similarly, we issued letters to international organizations or international companies that are involved in filtering content worldwide in Syria, in Yemen, in China, and we notified them that there is a bid and we want a public commitment from you, or a commitment to us that you will not do it. And in case you don't, then we will go public with this. We were also very cautious with that, rather than just going all out and shouting at people. We were very lucky to have Business Human Rights Resource Center involved. It is also an NGO that works in various countries about business and human rights ethics. Yeah. To get them involved, and luckily they were able to get Sandvine, WebSense, Cisco and McAfee to commit not to bid for this.
Okay.
And they also issued letters to ZTE, Huawei, and I think that it was ZTE, Huawei, and Bluecoat.
Right.
To not to bid. The ZTE, Huawei, and Bluecoat have not responded, but McAfee was one of the leaders that we thought might respond, and they've come.
But you know, some of the people who were for this blockage say that the RFP actually did not ask for international bids. It was only for indigenously building this filtering system. So why would you feel the need to contact all these international organizations?
Firstly, it's not only about Pakistan as a whole. This is a case study where no government in the past has ever declared they just go ahead and buy the filtering system and put it in place. So freedom, internet freedom, or even as a human rights activist, we feel that humanity is global. So if this could be made a case study to help people in Syria, for example, right now we have commitments from 6 leading companies that they will not bid. Now this is becoming, which other companies have taken up, and you will see another campaign that will be doing, is that if you've responded to Pakistan is saying that we fear that you might bid because we don't think that we have the capability to do it. So in case you are asked to, don't do it. So if they've committed not to, then what about China? You should back up. What about Syria? You should back up, and that's become a case study for international organizations.
And I thought I read something in the papers yesterday which said that the US government has asked these companies not to bid for something in Iran. So
yeah, so this is a precedent that we wanted to set, not only related to Pakistan. Secondly, the news regarding that this will be built indigenously, we have to be very careful that this is being said about universities. Now, even when we contact international companies that are involved in doing that, even we did not go ahead and attack them. We first issued a letter and said, please commit, and in case you don't commit, we will say that you might want to bid. And we cannot, as right activists, malign a university or say that they might be involved when we don't know, because it's their.
We should be very careful about. Unfortunately, the strength of social media is also sometimes its weakness, because we are very, very reactive and we don't think or research before we actually issue statements. And I think that's something that all of us have to be careful about.
Very extremely.
Okay, so one of the things you did was to write to the government organizations that had issued the RFP. Second thing you did was to write to these international organizations. Was there anything else? Did you also engage with parliamentarians or human rights organizations?
So we contacted the relevant government organizations that were directly involved. We contacted international organizations. We also contacted academics, but we did not make any of our contact public because we did not want to hurt their image. And not only did we contact them to say that we fear that you might get involved, we also said that please help us highlight, because you are the experts in this. We can talk about civil society, but you talk about how this will hurt research. Then we contacted parliamentarians to do it. Anusha Rahman was sent a letter, Bushra Gohar was sent a letter, Marvin Mehman was sent a letter, and Bushra Gohar has played a vital role in the campaign by communicating with the Ministry of IT continuously, even though we sent her right in the beginning and I was in touch with her throughout, but she on her own self had been regularly doing it, and I think we're more thankful.
That's the advantage of having parliamentarians who understand the power of this medium, who understand freedom of expression, and who are willing to listen. And I think that's why social media plays a big role.
Yeah, exactly.
If we can connect with them, if we can explain our stance, and if they understand it, then they will take up the cause. I think that's extremely important.
Also that, and those that don't understand, they don't understand because they don't have knowledge too. So rather than putting them on the defensive, we can say, we understand that you believe that this is something that could be used against national security. Let us sit you down and say how we both can work on it together. Because these are democratically elected people. These are people that we pay our taxes to. We should push them to.
And in fact, that was one of the most horrifying things, that a democratic government should be supporting such an initiative.
It was, especially with People's Party's government, which calls itself champions of democracy. And using the same terms that Ziaul Haq's dictatorship used for Islamization, saying that it's important for Islam, it's important for morality, and that is the easiest way. The state becomes a parent, and then they use these subjects which you cannot question.
Right. So what else did you do? You also got media involved. There was a lot of coverage both by local press as well as international media on this campaign, and do you think that helped or hurt your cause?
I think that definitely helped. What we did was we wanted to, we knew that the mainstream media will pick up, especially internationally, with business human rights doing such a good job at getting companies to commit. So it was a huge thing, and to be very honest, people at this commitment are more happy internationally because they see it as a precedent to act upon in Syria and otherwise. Currently, we don't have a crackdown or something that would cause such a censorship at the moment.
Right.
But it was also very important to see how this is shaped. We did not want an international media to just put in news coverage saying that, oh, Pakistan is doing this bad thing again. We wanted them to utilize the platform and say, these are the countries we've done in the past, this is how it has hurt them, this is how it can hurt Pakistan. And so we put together a press kit. I'm very thankful to Shakir Hussain from Creative Chaos, who tipped off and he said, if you write a kit, it will be easier for other columnists to write about it. And we contacted everybody that we could. We also put it on our site and we said, this is a press kit, which basically had not just details about our campaign, but mostly it had an FAQ of questions that people have explaining how it would hurt them.
Okay.
So a lot of people wrote about it and used it and wrote back and said it was very helpful.
And you also launched a petition that many people signed.
Yes.
I thought the response was extremely good.
We worked with Access Now to sign the petition, and Access Now has been pretty active, has always been active in this. And also the Access Now team, I'm very thankful that they listened to our request of saying that this is how we should do the campaign. And they did it, and it has more than 20,000 people now who signed up to it. And it's pretty good. And Reporters Without Borders as well has been very helpful.
They actually wrote to, I think, a couple of organizations within Pakistan to say that they were concerned and could they reconsider this move. So do you think, I mean, we've heard from Bushra Gauhar now, you heard from her saying, and she said also to several of our media friends, that the Ministry of IT has said that they will not go ahead with this. But we've had no official announcement. Are you concerned?
Of course I am concerned. I don't think that it's being shelved at all throughout this campaign, because we were always open to all the organizations that are working for, and even people sadly were working against this. I was regularly contacted by this one party that are working on banning pornography, this 15-year-old kid and his friends. And ironically, the easiest way to shut down dissent is to get these parties to fight amongst themselves. So they were under the belief that we are promoting pornography or whatever.
They actually thought you were sort of pro-pornography.
The point is about me or you or anybody
else. Who's sort of speaking up against this filtering mechanism.
No, and the thing is that luckily, laws aren't made about what your opinion about pornography is or mine is.
Right.
I could possibly say that I don't like it. It's degrading to women. It's as a feminist, I believe that pornography is absolutely degrading.
And child porn certainly.
Child porn is criminal in many places, but the point is that this isn't about pornography at all. It never was. But it's very sad that they were tipped off. What I fear now, and what is most likely to happen, what's very clear with their statement, is they did not expect such a backlash. And to be very honest, it wasn't a statement that directly came from them. They were just playing as the lease out. Now they don't want to take the blame for it, obviously. They've safely put it on PTA. Today, a very clear statement came by this report by Harun Rashid in BBC, which the spokesperson did not comment on the shelving, but said now the PTA will handle it. So as I see it, they have now gotten the kids who work for pro-banning porn to get a letter done by the PTA and say that PTA needs to ban these 7.5 lakh websites. I think that's the list that he gave, and we need something for it. And then the Ministry of IT will say, oh, this is protected under the Supreme Court order, and that's why we are buying it, which is very worrying, because they've seen how we've steered the campaign very successfully in saying this is about business and education, and now they want to bring pornography in so that it is easier to attack others and sort of say that, oh, you're pro-pornography or you're pro-blasphemy.
That is what a lot of countries do when they want to clamp down on anything that, any kind of dissent, whether it be political or civil dissent. And that's really worrying, because I think there should be the fact that there are no laws to protect people who might be charged under these for these crimes, and also the fact that stakeholders have not been consulted, the fact that there is no transparency, I think that is all very worrying.
That is, and you were involved in the campaign for lapsing PICO, so perhaps like you can elaborate a bit.
Yeah, I think one of the things that all of us spoke about at that time, and it was just not me, I think the success of the campaign really is when a lot of people from different sectors get together and tell people in power that, look, this is going to affect us negatively. And so even in the case of this campaign, we did speak up and we did tell them that, look, this is going to affect business. I had calls from a lot of our CEOs who are working in the US, who have back offices here, and they said, what is this? You know, can you please tell them that this is damaging our interests? A lot of freelancers, a lot of young entrepreneurs, you know, this discourages entrepreneurship, it discourages startups, because one doesn't know when one's website may be shut down. And then what is the procedure for finding out why? When is it going to be reopened?
I think there was an example with the Pasha Fund.
Yes, there's a young person that we have given a grant to, and they are trying to promote handicrafts, handmade shoes. Okay, so create a market for that, because the middlemen have really taken a lot of these handicraftsmen for a ride, and these people do such beautiful work, but they don't get paid enough for it. So this young man and young woman have decided to take on this cause, and actually under the Pasha Fund, they've decided that they're going to promote this cause, create a website, make sure that these people are able to sell their products under fair trade. And they phoned me and they said, our website is blocked. And I said, why? What is the name of your website? And they said, it's called hometownshoes.com. So I said, what is offensive
in shoes?
And then we found out that all shoe sites had been blocked. And so then, fortunately, I mean, I contacted the PTA, and the PTA was very helpful. But even then, it took about 10 days to 2 weeks for that site to be accessible again. So this is the case.
And 10 days for someone who has complete access, like you, who has access to these people and who has the liberty to be able to call them and they would listen.
And that is very worrying, because how does this help young startups? How does this help entrepreneurs? How does this help not-for-profits who are trying to do so much to bring up Pakistan's economy and alleviate poverty? I mean, we're always talking about poverty alleviation, but these are things that can be very damaging. So I think in terms of business, as well as in terms of freedom of expression, this was very worrying. So yes, the business segment also spoke up, but I think the cause was driven to a large extent by organizations like Bolopi, and I think the media did help a lot, and as well as people on social media, they brought this to the forefront, and I think that's good, because that shows that unity and the fact that people work together can actually bring a cause forward.
Even HRCP, SAFNA,
yes,
it's brilliant to see organizations who worked with Bolopi and worked individually as well, national organizations and international organizations working together. It was great to see that.
It was great. So what next?
What next? We are going to continue this. We are going to continue campaigning. We're not. It's important. It's more important now that there is a clear rift and there's a clear confusion, and they've understood that this is something that has caused a public outrage and concern on international levels. So it's more of a time to say that please let's sit down and let us explain to you that this is not the right way to do it. And pornography or no pornography, that is a debate that should be put into on the table with all stakeholders involved. I do not believe that state should become the parent. What are parents for? If the state has to tell you what to view and what not to view, what are parents for? But of course, my individual opinion does not shape law and legislation. So we're going to continue campaigning, and all our international organizations that are helping us believe that we should not stop right now.
Okay, great. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
And we hope to hear more about what Bolopi is doing, and these video casts will become more regular, so that
yes, hopefully,
so that your supporters will find out exactly what you're up to. Thank you, Sana.
Thank you.